Welcome to Pleasure Central Radio, the place to rethink the assumptions we don't even realize we are making that keep us from getting what we truly want out of work, life, and love. Here is your sneak peek into an authentic, pleasure-focused conversation. Well, hello there, Rowan. It is so good to have you back in Pleasure Central Radio.
It is great to be here with you again. It's been a while.
It has.
It's not just been a while for me, but it's been a while for everybody, right?
It has been a while since everybody has heard from me. Yeah, I think it's been, since April, so 6 or 7 months now.
Oh, so are we back on? What?
We are coming back on. Yeah, we are.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about what's been happening for you in your time away from the microphone.
Oh, wow. Well, so much has been happening for me. First of all, the reason why I took time away from the microphone, there's actually two reasons. The first one is a very logistical, practical reason, and that is I broke my arm. I broke my mouse arm, my touchpad and editing arm, and so I had my arm in a sling for a month, I think, where I couldn't really type and do any of my normal things. So I got definitely out of the habit of producing weekly episodes.
Well, I know you're a very busy person and fitting in editing is hard at the best of times.
It is.
When you're working with one hand.
Yes, and when it takes 4 times as long, you're trying to do it with your left hand. Yeah, so that did get harder, but at the same time, as I was doing less editing and less computer work, it was summertime and I wanted to get outside a lot, and tango started happening again. So a lot of the local tango dances were back on, and I was getting to go to milongas and practicas and getting to explore and move and be around people and be social again. And it was so fulfilling and so physical. Like I felt like I really needed something physical to bring me out of that post-pandemic depression. And that was what I picked, dancing my butt off, literally.
There's a good story in this, right? Because you spend a lot of time on your podcast talking about following desires and taking care of yourself.
I do.
And for you, that meant stepping away from the mic.
Yes, it did. Even if I forgot to tell people that I was stepping away. It's one of those things where I just kept feeling like, okay, I'm going to do next week. I'm going to share and I'm going to get out. But the other reason that is a less practical reason, more emotional reason, is I kept feeling like I had a lot to share and I really wanted to say some of these things and I wanted to say them, from the bottom of my heart. And there was enough pain that was still stuck in me at the beginning of the summer and throughout a big chunk of the last few months. And I am a big fan of sharing your scars, not your wounds. And I wanted to make sure I was at a place where I was sharing scars and not bitterness and venom. So I intentionally kept myself away a little.
You want to share wisdom, not do your therapy in public. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a bit of a different experience for me that way.
So having spent a little bit of time with you this evening before we recorded this, it seems like you've worked through a lot of those things. Is that how it feels to you internally?
Oh, I hope so. I hope I have worked through quite a bit. I do know that the people who care about me and who have an inside view into my life have reflected back to me that, now I'm past the stage of feeling so much pain and I'm back into being able to share with balance again.
Just in time for us to delve into the winter months, which are very cold and dreary here in Seattle and known for being fantastic for mental health. So.
Right, as he says with sarcasm. Just in case that was not caught by our international audience.
Yeah. Everyone who's not British, sorry.
Yes, that's true.
I think for most of us, this weird time of pandemic has been tough. It feels like just when we get used to whatever the new normal is, the new normal shifts into the new abnormal. And I think we had a song to share, right, that hopefully encapsulates some of that energy of feeling very unstable.
We do have a song, and I wanted to have this first episode back be one that was uplifting and joyful and playful. And this, what we're going to call it a house concert episode, it was originally going to happen on my birthday, which is April. And then one thing led to another and the timing didn't work out and all kinds of things changed. So instead, I'm putting it up now in honor of one of my friends who has a birthday almost exactly opposite from me. And we're all going through some things right now. And yeah, I wanted to dedicate this song to them.
So what song are we going to be hearing?
This is a song called Shaky Ground.
And if I understand correctly, you actually know the artist.
I do. Yeah, this is a singer-songwriter who's a friend of mine. Her name is Val D'Alessio, and I've shared some of her songs on other episodes before. This one I'm really inspired and motivated to share because it speaks so much, I think, to what's going on in the world and to what has ended up being my personal strategy of basically dancing through the earthquake.
Well, I guess here we go with Shaky Ground.
Okay.
Ding dong, I said the witch is gone. Boy in the White House has gotta move on. He shook up everything, turned it upside down. I ain't gonna stand here on shaky ground. I wanna dance now. Hey ho, said I don't care. I ain't gonna put my attention there. But it took up all the headlines, I must confess. You're stuck here in my song and I wanna get you out now. So I'm dancing on shaky ground. Yeah, I'm dancing on shaky, dancing the parties now. Say you still ain't gone, and I don't wanna sing you a negative song, but you got a way of holding on forever, longer than a cockroach and Keith Richards together. Hey ho, well it ain't just you, it's a sign of the times, and a fear of the flu. And I have never felt so insecure. I've never needed to dance more. So I'm dancing on shaky ground. Yeah, I'm dancing on shaky, dancing the parties now. Hey ho, what ding dong, where the witch ain't gone. But I'm the only one here writing this song, so I'm gonna sing what I wanna see. I don't need you gone to balance me, 'cause I'm dancing on shaky ground. Dancing on shaky, dancing the parties now. Dancing on shaky ground.
So that was Shaky Ground by Val D'Alessio.
Yes, it was.
Cool. Can you maybe share a little bit about what the song means to you and why you... I mean, I think the title even gives a lot of it away, but perhaps you could let us know why that song spoke to you about the last period of time we've all been through.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think the nation that I live in, that we live in, the United States, has been changing a lot in the last couple of years. Every city has got its own different flavor of things, and there is just a lot happening and a lot shifting all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And even for, those of us that are pretty aware and pretty willing to move with the flow as it goes, it is a lot to adjust to. And this summer for me, getting to have the space to dance again, to do tango, to have, I still am getting to dance 2 or 3 times a week with people that are really good, that are good enough that I'm being challenged and I'm getting better. And I'm just finding that deep connection to my physical and to exploring, expressing, and growing that physical skill, it really has really helped me have a focus so that as I'm dancing, I don't feel completely ungrounded. I don't feel lost so much anymore. I feel like there is something that I can count on and connect to, and it's me.
What a wonderful takeaway. And I think super important, as there is a lot going on, a lot changing around us logistically with our lives, living in a pandemic, a lot happening in the social sphere. That ability to be grounded is super important as we deal with those things.
So life has changed a lot for you since the last time we saw each other too, right?
It has, yes. I mean, before the last time we hung out, I had left the world of corporate tech and transitioned to be a stay-at-home dad, and did that, which was not intentional, but very fortunately coincided with the pandemic, which having a full-time parent at home is a lot easier when you're trying to survive a pandemic with schools closed.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yes. But since we last spent time together, children have gone back to school, which they are loving. And I started my own business as well, but instead of sticking with tech, I am working in construction now, which I am loving. But the last time we hung out was actually at your birthday party, so it is fun to be reflecting on that quite a bit later.
Yeah, it is. And wow, that was quite a fun party, wasn't it?
It was. There's obviously lots of terms, whatever sphere of life you go into, polyamory being one of those places. It has a lot of terms. One that I've enjoyed thinking about is the idea of kitchen table polyamory, which I guess for people that aren't in that world is the idea of being able to do everyday life with your partner and their partners and their partner's partners and etc.
And whoever happens to be connected to this interesting chain of people.
Yeah, to me, I think the best example of that I have personally experienced firsthand is probably your birthday party, because there was a lot of very interesting connections there. And I think most people probably hear that and are like, what weird sex things did they get up to?
Right.
Yeah. But no, we hung out and we drank and consumed other substances and had fun.
Had good food.
Yep.
Yeah. And let's see, I'm trying to remember who was there. I think it was you and another guy that I was dating,
mm-hmm.
and his partner, and then one of my lovers, my on and off lovers, and there was one of my friends who
mm-hmm.
used to be a friends with benefits kind of person. So yeah, I think there was like 6 people at that party that I had slept with or was sleeping with at the time.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't weird, right?
It wasn't. It didn't feel weird to me, and I got the same feedback from other people.
When I think I came in, I think a lot of those other people had met other people beforehand. I hadn't met any of them yet, and it felt very comfortable to me.
Yeah.
I feel like when you fully embrace the openness of that, I guess knowing that everybody in that room has some level of openness makes it a very easy group of people to get along with.
Yeah, it does help.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's not like you're trying to suss out who you can say what to, because...
Yeah, and I guess we know we're not competing with each other because we already know we're all like have some overlap in the people we're sleeping with. So
yeah, yeah, it was very neat. And I actually had the podcast booth open that night, and so some people came in and recorded some things. And I think the next thing that we wanted to share was something that one of my lovers recorded after being there at that party.
yes, and I'm actually eager to hear this because I haven't heard it myself yet. So I'm experiencing it firsthand in real time.
It was really neat. So for context, this is someone who I have an on and off relationship with, sexual and emotional relationship, but we don't have a partnership connection because we're just not suited and available for that for each other. However, we do have this really beautiful deep heart connection. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted him to be at the party and to celebrate with us. And I knew he would get along really well with everyone else.
So there were quite a few of us at your party, Bradley being one of them, but I think Tom was here and also recorded something that we're going to share as well.
Yeah, Tom shared a little something too.
Cool. So Tom's been on your podcast before too, right?
He has, yeah. And there's a whole episode that is dedicated mostly to him. It's the Kindness is Everything episode. And that episode is dedicated to him because of the way he handled our separation so cleanly and so delightfully. And yeah, we're still friends.
Fantastic. So here it is. We're hearing from Tom first, and then we're going to drop into a conversation that you and Bradley had, right?
Yes, that's right. The morning after the party.
Hello, Rebecca. I'm here at your birthday party having a wonderful time. I'm contributing to your wonderful podcast with some happy thoughts. I'm going to mention tonight because it's a pretty cool night. We're all here for your birthday, and my birthday's coming up too, so it's a group party here and a bunch of new awesome people, getting to meet them, your partners, my partner's partners. It's a pretty amazing poly experience. So I'd like to thank you for bringing us all together and for being the awesome person that you are.
Hello, my name is Dr. Bradley Franklin.
Well, hello, Bradley. Welcome to Pleasure Central Radio.
Thank you.
I love birthday parties, and as a polyamorous person who practices a pretty open form of polyamory, I love to have as many of my partners and close friends at my birthday parties as I can. And this year, I get to have a small group. It was really nice. We were able to come together and have a good time, and you got to be there and got to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
For the first time ever.
Yes.
Radiant Rebecca's birthday party.
It was amazing.
Poly extravaganza.
Pretty much. Very true indeed. Yeah, not what I expected to walk into. So I knew of who was going to be there. Everything was laid out, but I didn't know anybody. But I knew that I was going to like them because of the energy that you and I already share that just resonates. Like we jive in the same vibe. So I'm a very touchy-feely kind of person. I love human touch, skin time. I have got 4 kiddos that I skin time. Even my oldest 14-year-old still cuddles with me. And coming over and knowing that I needed a place to stay for the night, I was like, great, I'll get to stay with Rebecca. And so I wanted to be close and cuddly also, but I was timid and I had preconceived notions about what atmosphere was appropriate to be able to cuddle and touch someone that I am occasionally dating, or I got to stay here with someone that I occasionally get to play with, which was fabulous. But knowing that she had other partners in the room and I didn't know who she was cuddling with or sitting next to, or I didn't realize because I'd never been in a situation where it was so open and comfortable. And I was timid to be touchy-feely because even though I wanted to, I didn't know the atmosphere. I knew the people and I knew your friends and how they are also in the open lifestyle. But it was still awkward for me because of how inexperienced I am in the world of human sexuality. Rebecca, I've never been in a situation like that, and you made it feel very comfortable. And being in your company and those gentle gestures that you offered me made everything feel normal and comfortable to where we could be vulnerable. And we did. We played that game. What's it called again? The game that we played?
Oh, was it the Bright
card
Moments?
game.
No, oh, yes. Mind, Body, and Spirit?
Yes. So we all went deep and talked about authentic, real stuff, especially in a time of crisis. So, yeah, being here was just super comfortable being near you and would do it 1,000 times over. Amazing birthday party to attend. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love how my birthday parties are always different than the average birthday party. What did we do? We baked banana bread
At midnight.
at midnight. We read oracle cards together for everybody. We played this chakra question game.
Mm-hmm.
And we did some podcasting.
We talked about parenting and
Yeah.
relationship dynamics and separations and all sorts of like real life shit that people deal with and don't talk about.
People who had never met each other asked each other tough questions and gave each other advice
Yeah.
on things that are really important life stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I drilled them. I drilled your friends and for all the help. Like, what do you do when you're going through separation and helping the kids and this and that? And yeah, same vibe. You guys offered this authentic, genuine, peaceful solutions to real life stuff.
My friends have such a wealth of expertise and information and experience. Isn't it great to just get to pick their brains?
Yeah, you can definitely pick them out of a crowd. Those that operate from a standpoint of love in their heart to share with the world. And your friends that I get to now hang out with are operating from that loving, open, authentic, this is me, and how can I help you, and how can I help me, right? Just
Yeah.
full circle. Did we sing happy birthday, though?
We didn't.
Oh, my God.
And you know what? The other thing is, this was supposed to be a polycule birthday party because Rowan and Tom have their birthdays in the next week, too.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I completely forgot to say anything about anyone else's birthday. I was like, yep, I'm the birthday girl. All attention on me.
Well, you're also the hostess of the mostess, so
That's true.
absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah.
But now I feel like, oh, I kind of gypped Tom and Rowan out of their parties. Gonna have to make that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those two were phenomenal. Really appreciated being in their energy.
Now, I was moving around and doing a lot of things, so I didn't really get to keep the threads of the conversations that were going.
Yeah.
But that was the first time they have ever met. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been dating both of them for about 9 months, and that was
That's
the first time
amazing.
they've met.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy their company very much. And it looked like they were having a great time as well. So,
Yeah. Some quality people in my polycule.
yeah, they're absolutely.
It's very neat. Yeah, it was fun getting to hear you guys share with each other, both to see what everyone thinks is important enough to say out loud to this group. And when I put my foot forward and said a couple of sexier, more off-the-wall things, how everyone was able to relax and be like, oh, yeah, I guess everyone in here is understanding of open sexuality.
That's true. Yeah, and then the atmosphere changed and it got lighter. I felt a difference and I felt more open to being direct with what I was thinking. Yeah, and actually sharing that too. Totally unique vibe that is such a rare occasion. And we get to create as many as we want. It's a choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I already ask you what surprised you the most out of being here for the last
No.
12 hours?
My energy shift. Long day at work, great day. Got to help a lot of people. Interacting with a lot of different energies can be very challenging to stay in a good headspace or not feel exhausted. And being here, even though it was later at night, 8 to midnight, we were hanging out, partying, having a good time. The energy was incredible, and I didn't feel tired, and I never looked at my phone other than when my kids were texting me 1,000 times, but I didn't look at it for the time because it's just wanted to hold still and soak up the moment. So that surprised me that I went from like, where's the bed? I'm ready to go to sleep, to wow. Yeah, there's definitely a wow factor in that atmosphere of your peeps. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked hard to cultivate it, and I appreciate that you're part of that.
Thank you. I'm grateful to become a part of this. Yeah.
And I can't wait for our episode. We have an episode that we're going to be doing.
That's right.
I've collected questions from people about circulation and blood flow.
That's right. Important things to consider when being intimate.
Very.
Absolutely.
Important things to consider for your pleasure.
Yes.
Well, this is
that's gonna be a
great.
fun one.
I can't wait.
Well, that was interesting to listen to firsthand because I feel like a little bit ago when we were having a meal together, I was talking about how much I enjoyed Dr. Bradley's energy. So I love you too, Dr. Bradley.
He is such a cool guy. I really enjoy his company and everything that he brings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'd told me a few things about Bradley before I met him, and he was not the person. I had built a mental model as you do of people, and I remember being intrigued by him when I met him because he broke the mold of what I had put together in my head. So.
Yeah, he is so much more of a playful big kid than you expect.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is 100% what it was.
Yep.
I thoroughly enjoyed his company as well.
Nice. Yeah, I think he has this energy that is so friendly and so comfortable. It's almost like, I wouldn't say a friendly puppy dog because he's much more mature than a puppy dog, but it's got that welcoming energy of a very friendly animal.
Yeah, I think maybe what is uncommon or less common in people is a playful energy that's also combined with some depth of soul.
Yeah.
And I grew up with dogs. I had two different types of dog. One was, this is when I was a child, so my family had two different types of dogs. We had Bourgeois, which is like a Russian wolfhound. They're supposed to be elegant and regal. They are the stupidest dogs you'll ever meet.
Okay.
The kind of dog that frequently runs into the window or things like that.
Oh my gosh.
So young and playful, not much depth of soul there. The other type of dog I had was actually a golden retriever, which if you had to ask me about my childhood dog, that would be Griff, the golden retriever.
Nice.
And I feel like there is an animal that knows how to be ridiculous and chase its own tail and splash in the pond, but has an amazing ability to also sit with you.
Yeah.
With a strong depth of soul.
Yeah, I agree. And wow, what a lovely segue into the next song that we would like to share.
Oh, I had no idea.
I love how you play dumb as if you don't know what we're doing. I really appreciate that. So the next song is also by my friend Val D'Alessio, and this one is called Golden Retriever.
You are an angel, you don't fit your label. You are a teacher, you're a golden retriever. You were born different, with abnormalities. What science cannot fix is nature's masterpiece. But you love everybody, you love so easily. You are a teacher, you're a golden retriever. Music pours out from your soul, if you're old and you dance like nobody's looking. Mamma Mia, dancing queen, you sing out loud and calling me to sing with you, yeah. Loud orange sweaters, Hawaiian shirts in December, your personal fashion show. But you are an original. Your life is not easy, but you always seem happy. You are a teacher. You're a golden retriever. Your love and purity make me a believer. You're my golden retriever.
It's interesting how listening to a song about golden retriever just takes me back to remembering childhood dog and its fond memories.
It is. And I like how you mentioned it's that deep space, that being able to hold a deep space that made a difference in the way you connected with your childhood animals.
Yeah, my other animals, I rode horses. And I feel like that's another animal that holds a lot of deep space. I remember after I'd moved to America, going back to Australia, where I still had a horse. And I went out, I think I arrived in the afternoon, so it was evening before I got out to see the horses. And I sat out in the paddock behind the property I'd grown up on, and the horse was eating, and I just sat down under its neck and rested my back against its front legs. And that's an experience I remember now, because I went from a busy city with its fast pace of life, wasn't really doing any internal spiritual work at this point, to being away from it all, out in a pasture with my back against a horse while it's munching away under the moonlight. And yeah, it's a transition I remember vividly.
That's a beautiful story. A horse is a powerful totem for me too.
So another piece you had talked about sharing on this episode is actually a story of somebody else's journey home, which this is an impressive segue I didn't even realize we were making. But
Hey, look at you.
Look at us. So this is a story that somebody submitted to you. Am I correct?
Yes, that a listener had submitted. I had put a call out in April for people to share some of their stories and their art and things. And this was something that a listener named James had shared. And he shared a recording as well, but he asked me to clean it up if I could. And I decided it would be easier to just read the transcript. So I'm going to end up reading his story. And maybe you'll get a peek into a life that is very different from yours.
That sounds wonderful. So here is James's story, read by Rebecca.
I'm James. I listen because I listen to a lot of podcasts, but this one is the first time I've known the host of one. I wasn't too sure I had anything to contribute to the show, but I recently went on a cross-country trip, and I managed to put some of my thoughts to paper. Here goes. A death in the family has me fly out east. My mom's husband was found slumped and unresponsive in his recliner one morning with the TV on. The doctor tells us that he likely suffered a stroke in the night and never knew what happened. All in all, it's not a bad way to go. I like the guy. He reminded everyone of Santa. He had spent his entire life in a Norwegian town in South Dakota until he and my mom got married. He was much older than her, but managed to keep up. They moved back and forth a bit, and if not for her, he may have never seen the country. He did not suffer through life. In fact, he was rather fond of it. By the time I arrive, the service is a week past, and the family is busy making plans. Mom can't afford to live alone. It's decided that she'll move in with Grandma. My job here is to pack the old house and drive all my mom's remaining possessions to Kentucky. I enjoy taking on the responsibility. I feel as if I've been shirking my duties as a son by moving out west, even though not a single splinter of furniture had been made ready for my arrival. I set to work enthusiastically. I resolve that no one will witness a complaint from me until the job is done. As I dig, the mess I find, artifacts from my childhood mixed in with the new things my mom has accumulated. Here I find an old drawing from grade school and yellowed notebook paper. There I see that she's kept a book report I made in junior high that's flecked with water mold on the edges. It strikes me that my handwriting has barely changed at all. In the evenings, my nephew and niece come over to say hello and offer their help. They've grown naturally and are actual people now who have no need for patronizing. It's a genuine thrill to be able to talk to them like adults. They see me as some kind of troubadour. "What's it like out west?" he asks me. "It's beautiful," I say. "I met some wonderful people." "Isn't it dangerous?" This is a somewhat common question. They've never lived outside South Dakota. All they know of the West Coast is that it is a wicked place where all the childless aunts and uncles of America live. When I had first arrived, the South Dakota sky was a fairy tale. Contrary to its western cousin, the Midwest terrain is perfectly separated, land and sky standing socially distanced from each other. Even the clouds are 6 feet apart. But on the morning that we set to leave, the atmosphere becomes yellow and dreary. I will be driving this 20-foot truck full of precious cargo through heavy rain. I say my goodbyes to my sister and her kids and climb into the cab as heavy droplets are coming down. Mom has decided to go ahead of me. She takes 3 anxious cats and the urn full of fresh ashes and says, "We'll see you there." For all we know, he's already there, but because of the cats, she's decided that she's going to drive all the way through in one go. I don't recommend that, but she's made up her mind. And as she speeds ahead, I'm left alone with the Midwestern road, slick with oily rain. I'm driving, heading southeast. I stop for the night in Hannibal, Missouri, the birthplace of Mark Twain, they're eager to tell me. I find a hotel downtown and book a room that overlooks the Mississippi River. It takes me about 6 attempts back and forth to angle the moving truck into the narrow lot, but I manage to get in without hitting anyone. Some clever local painted a mural of Tom Sawyer looking over his shoulder on the brick wall across from me, and it feels like he's laughing at me as I skillessly pull into the spot in the lobby. I can see in my peripheral a pair of boomers staring at me. All this attention creates a tiny bit of sweat on my forehead. Even the receptionist feels nosy as she hands back my license. "All the way from Oregon." "Yes, ma'am." I try to affect a folksy tone. "Were you near all the fires?" "Not too far. There was some smoke near me." "It sounds so dangerous out there." I put on less conspicuous shoes and decide to walk down to the river. Downtown Hannibal is one of those places that's made to look old-fashioned. The buildings take on the facade of the Gilded Age in order to impress tourists and travelers like me. But COVID has occurred in Missouri as well, and even though I'm anxious to buy an expensive souvenir, everything is closed. I walked past a solemn-looking chapel. It's made of very old-looking bricks, possibly the original stuff. The steeple is high and feels far off. I have to look directly upward to see a tangled weather vane twist around in the sky. Just then, the rain resumes. I duck under some scaffolding and pull my hood up. As I reach the river, the clouds above are at their grayest. There's a statue nearby where a bronzed Twain stands with wheel in hand, a monument to his days as a steamboat captain. Further on, there is a newly built jetty that reaches out above the rolling Mississippi River. I walk out to the end and try to imagine Twain steering along it as a young man. Truth be told, I never connected with his generation's writing much. I was always for the post-war writers. These guys came back from the war in a beautiful stupor. I try imagining instead Walker Percy, a New Orleans author, who said that the Midwest sky was so silent and lonely that he just couldn't face it. It sounds like something a traveler would say as he rivals his home sky against our own. But solitude is an excellent mood for travel. I look into the murky waters of the Mississippi as it stampedes beneath me and think about America. This country is gorgeous. Even if the people turn sour towards each other, all one would need to do in order to restore their faith is drive across it from coast to coast. See it the way the explorers saw it, those lucky bastards, from the ground. Hear the plastic clatter of a tackle box as it falls off the tailgate and into the dirt. Hear the click-clack of trussels as the 12 o'clock pink line approaches Kedzie Avenue. Watch your step. Hear a lone firework in the middle of an empty soy field in October. The chlorinated slaps of wet feel at a public pool in New York. The drawn-out scrapes of plastic on asphalt as a retired janitor clears fresh snow out of his driveway in Duluth. The musket-tail roar of a distant airliner as it wakes up a napping hitchhiker at a rest stop outside of Gainesville. The AM radio playing ranchera music on the other side of a busy diner in Wichita Falls. We are men and women of the frontier, and our hearts crave a natural adventure.
So, James has a pretty good turn of phrase.
Doesn't he?
Some wonderful bits in there.
Yeah, I love that. And I loved that it's such a different perspective. And I think because of my work, I get to hear some very intimate moments, particularly from men and from single men. And like there's a whole world out there that these men are experiencing that we're usually not that privy to. So bringing his story and some of the insights that he was sharing in his turns of phrase, like you mentioned, I thought is a nice reflection on the masculine.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what, as you reflect on that story, what are the things that you feel like in the way that James experiences the world, or maybe some things he shared that are very different from your own experience of the same country?
Yeah, well, there's one thing. There's a lot of expectation in that story, that other people's expectation of him. Mm-hmm. You know, expectation that he would be willing to drive this van with other people's stuff that he ends up packing up for them. And that's a lot of expectation, but it's also the way he just adapts to it. He's like, yeah, I know. It's okay.
It was interesting hearing him talk about pulling his 20-foot truck into the driveway and the expectation that he should be able to pull it straight in. I have a travel trailer that our family takes camping, and I remember the first year having that. The largest thing I'd driven before that was a Australian size SUV, which is a lot smaller than American SUVs, with a horse trailer on the back of it, which is quite a bit smaller than the now 33-foot travel trailer I drive around with, an American-sized truck. And I remember the first year feeling very self-conscious about backing that thing into camping spots.
With good reason. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I've seen you do this, and it's very impressive.
But it's funny now, I'm like very comfortable driving it now. But I see new people pull in having exactly the same experience I have. And I think there is an element to which there are particularly other men that stand around and be like, oh, that guy can't back his trailer in. What a newbie. But then there's also all of us, I'm sure the majority of people that are like, oh man, yeah, I remember the first year I had my first trailer.
Yeah.
And it was hard. But I think it's the kind of thing people don't say to each other. No one comes over and is like, it's all right, mate. It was hard for me the first year too.
Yeah.
What a remarkably unmale thing to do.
That's true. Yeah, the other thing that has struck me so much about this story is how self-contained he is. Like, all of the stories are so very internal, so much about his internal state and the way he's experiencing everything else. And there's some interaction with other people, but there's this unwritten assumption that I move through the world alone, and I make my choices alone, which has a beautiful bittersweetness to it.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that, because that part, I definitely see that, but that doesn't strike me as odd, because I obviously, as a husband and father and all of those things now, I don't move through the world alone. But I also moved to a completely different country and knew nobody when I was 25, I believe. And so I know that feeling of moving through the world alone, when I knew nobody and took myself snowboarding and had my very own personal experience doing that. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting difference between the two of us, hearing his story.
Yeah.
That feels familiar to me.
Nice. Okay.
So we have one last song to share with people. This is a song that you have shared on the podcast before.
Yes, I have.
Cool. And if I remember, you told me that was the episode where you talked about your relationship transition with Tom, who we heard from a little snippet earlier in this podcast and has also been on the podcast himself too, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I think at this moment it feels weird to not mention that we also had a transition in there between your birthday and recording this episode.
Yeah, we had a beautiful transition. It was a really, really lovely experience.
Okay, so I came to the realization as I was going through a whole bunch of transitions in my life, including starting a business, that I had spread myself way too thin and did not have the time capacity to have the types of relationships that I want to have with people. So I went through a process of focusing in on the things that were going to fill up my life for the next year or however long, and decided I needed to make the transition of not dating anybody else apart from my nesting and parenting partner. So we had a transition in there away from a romantic relationship to a friendship, which has been very sporadic because I have inundated myself with starting a new business at the moment.
And I have inundated myself with all my other things. Yeah. So one of the things that I really appreciated about that transition was the way that you handled it. You know, it was just very like, oh my gosh, I had a realization this weekend, and I guess things are going to need to change. And this is what I would like to continue to experience with you. And this is why I need to have a little bit of a different direction. And it was very clear, and it was very respectful of everybody involved. And I just, you know, it's really interesting when people are open-hearted and they just share what they need. It is so easy to give them what they need and to give it with a generous spirit.
It's really good to hear that. So thank you for saying those things. I think one of the pieces I was attempting to model there, which is a skill I'm trying to get better at, was being quick with expressing what I needed as well. So it was an interesting exercise for me in, I guess I didn't have a lot of time to sit on that information and be like, what's the best way to share this, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But it also meant I didn't have the time to sit on it and create any narratives other than I need to make some more space in my life, and these are the things that I'm choosing to prioritize at the
Yeah.
moment.
And I also thought that was very clever of you. It's a challenging thing, I think, to not only face the assumptions that people have, but to be bucking the assumptions that people have, and to not be bucking the assumptions people have in the direction they expect you to. Does that make sense?
No, not really.
All right. So
I think I followed you halfway.
yeah. Well, I think it's common when people declare, hey, this is how I live my life. Maybe I'm polyamorous.
Right.
Okay, but well, where are your three partners? Well, I'm polyamorous, but I'm not dating anyone at the moment, right? Or for me, I considered myself a polyamorous person even while I was married, even though it was a monogamous relationship.
Yeah.
Did I tell you I broke my toe this year too?
Yes. Was it that one?
It was that one. It's fine.
It's not broken.
It didn't land on my toe, no. But yeah, that was a whole nother inundation of change for me.
Yeah, I think that is a very interesting point. I've had a few examples of this that have come up recently had a friend talk about being bisexual, but that they sometimes didn't feel like they were, and I think it had pushback that they weren't bisexual because they were in a monogamous marriage with somebody of the opposite gender. Which doesn't make any sense, right? You can be attracted to men and women and then choose to marry a person that is either going to be a man or a woman.
Right.
But you're not, if you're in a monogamous relationship, you are not going to be dating both of those people at the same time.
Yeah.
And in the same way, if you can be a sexual person who wants to have sex and romance and all of that, but you might be single. And that doesn't mean you're not romantic or sexual. It just means that's not something you're engaging in right now.
Yeah.
So I still very much approach the world from a polyamorous mindset. There is always the freedom for all of the freedoms that come along with that. But I choose to do other things for myself at the moment. It is interesting too, when Athalie and I moved from a monogamous relationship to polyamory, there was this feeling among some of the people that it wasn't fair because she started dating people right away and I didn't. And that was very interesting to me, that the whole point of polyamory is to create more freedom. But people on the outside felt like we had to be dating the same number of people. Otherwise, it wasn't quote unquote fair.
Isn't that so weird?
Yeah.
As if, you know, you and your friends should all start dating the same number of people at the same time. Like, what the hell? What's that about? That's not how love works.
Yeah. And then, so to start with, that was a conscious decision from me. Like, I felt like I was in the middle of a lot of self-discovery. And so coming from Christian world, I'd heard people use the phrase of like dating yourself, or like you date Jesus until you're ready to date somebody.
Right.
So I intentionally made the decision to quote unquote date myself for a while.
Not Jesus though, huh?
Well, maybe the Jesus inside of me.
Not the same form of Jesus.
Not the same
you
form
were
of
taught.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That Jesus would not have been happy right now. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the point of creating freedom is that you get to do the things that compel you, that captivate you. And at that time, I was much more interested in discovering more about myself. I was interested in discovering relationships with other people, but not enough to prioritize it over self-discovery.
Yeah, and over all the other things that you're doing.
Yeah.
Parenting, running a new business, all that.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
Yeah, but it's a lot because I choose, there's a certain way that I want to engage in those things.
Yeah,
And so I could make other decisions, but I didn't. That's how I want to run things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes get questions like that about time management. Like, how do you manage having so many partners all at once? How do you keep their names straight? How do you remember who likes what kinds of things? And for me, it's, especially when it comes to time management, I think it's important to realize that I have a very different lifestyle from most of the people that are asking these questions. I work 10 to maybe 30 hours a week. I don't have kids. I don't have animals.
Mm.
I have people that cook and clean for me. My life is so much more free and open than the average person's. And so when they come to me for time management and how to manage all of their partners and their polycule, I don't think I'm very much help most of the time, because I'm like, well, set up your life so that you can have the kind of freedom that you want. And they just look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what are you talking about? I can't do that. Well, not overnight, but you can over time.
So before we transition into Kindness is Everything, the song, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you're thinking about next, what's coming out on the podcast.
Oh, what's coming out on this show next? There are actually a lot of fantastic episodes. I've been recording episodes this whole time, even though I haven't been publishing them. And that has led to a lot of very interesting show ideas that have been stockpiled. I have an episode that was specifically recorded for men. I have 2 of my favorite men on that show.
Cool.
And one of my former co-host, Sean, will be coming on for that episode. So that was fun to get to see him. I haven't seen him in a really long time.
Nice.
And there's an episode about boudoir photography and owning your sexy side.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one. And there's a lot of fun little tie-ins that I have that have happened the rest of the summer since that particular episode was recorded. Then, let's see.
You were on another podcast too, right?
I was on another podcast. This one is called It Goes Both Ways by Christy and Steve Letarte. And they're a very sweet couple from the East Coast, and they have a show that's talking about their life and about being parents and having had a long-term relationship for many years, a monogamous relationship. And they actually asked me to give them 3 sex challenges in that episode. So that was pretty fun.
I feel like that crosses some lines between people having the right way of doing relationships. I feel like a lot of people might think monogamy is or non-monogamy is. What fun to like cross that divide.
Definitely. And I appreciated doing that episode too, because it helped me explore and explain how the knowledge that I have packed inside this head of mine can be helpful for all kinds of people.
Yeah, I definitely, most of what I've learned from polyamory is applicable to many areas of life that have nothing to do with dating multiple people.
Yes.
That's fun.
That's fun. And then there's a couple of episodes about some TV shows where some friends and I go in and analyze and take them apart.
Oh, I love those.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One of them is called Halt and Catch Fire.
Oh.
Have you seen that show?
I have seen that show.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, I look forward to sharing that episode with you because it was really neat to approach from a different perspective.
Yeah, and I feel like we both have a tech background to draw from there. So.
Yeah, it was very entertaining. And yeah, so those are some of the episodes that people can look forward to. My plan is in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to get the handful of episodes, there's 10 to 13, out and published that I have been holding on to. So if you see a bunch of things flooding into the newsfeed, it won't last forever. But for the next 2 weeks, feel free to binge and enjoy.
Thanks for having me on, and we are going to fade out to Kindness is Everything.
It's such a pleasure, Rowan. Thanks for being here.
I feel so bad, like a trucker in a bar, in a backcountry song, going on and on and on and on about the million ways that you could tell me to get lost, but you chose the kind way, and when you left me with a lot. 'Cause kindness is everything at the end of every day. Yeah, kindness is everything, and with you go away. This pain isn't gonna leave me, but your kindness will stay. Yeah, your kindness will stay. And it's a time of the signs, and everywhere I see Black Lives Matter and LGBT and QRS too, all the way to Z. And science is real, kindness is key. Yeah, kindness is everything at the end of every day. Kindness is everything, and you go away. This pain go, I wonder if you're ever gonna think of me. I wonder if I'm ever gonna leave you a memory. But all I got is a good hook and a bad country rhyme. Trying to be too clever when all I gotta be is kind to you. 'Cause kindness is everything, end of every day. And kindness is everything, and if you walk away, this pain isn't gonna leave me, but your kindness will stay. 'Cause kindness is everything at the end of every day.
Thanks for listening to Pleasure Central Radio. Today's episode was a joint creative effort hosted by me, Rebecca Beltran, and my co-host today was Rowan Miller. I get significant creative feedback from my beta listeners group. For this episode, special thanks goes to Rowan, James, Bradley, Tom, and of course, Val D'Alessio for their sharings. And photo credit for the new podcast cover art goes to Jody Rae Photography in Astoria, Oregon. Thanks, girl. I love it. I look forward to your company on the next episode.